Baking bread with Babs. Well, I've already put the yeast in the water and I have this beautiful consistency. It's supposed to double its size by the time you leave it for 20 minutes. Just cover it up with a nice towel. Okay, then I add some sugar, or probably a little more sugar than most people, and some cinnamon, and about a half a tablespoon of salt. It has kind of like that because if you use buttery, if your butter has salt in it already, it'll come out way, way too salty. And then about a quarter of a cup of oil, any kind of oil. I prefer just regular vegetable oil. And then you save a little bit for the very, very end. Okay, I always use a spatula and make sure that it's all ground, all done real nicely. You can't really see in the bowl. But, okay, and then you start with 2 cups of flour. Everybody has their own way of doing this. So I start out with a whisk. And so I try to whisk it so all of there's no lumps at all in the mixture and the flour. Just kind of get it started so it has a nice little base. And then it'll just... I'd help if I put the freaking... Before putting in the flour, I forgot to tell you that you're supposed to put in 2.5 cups of warm water. Forgot the freaking water?
Oh no.
So, hold on.
Hold that thought.
It's a good thing my sink is so close to my kitchen.
That's a plus. That's a plus.
It's funny how they do that.
Yeah.
Okay, alright, we're back in business. Anything that's been done in the kitchen can be undone. So if you have a little faux pas, don't let it sweat you out. Just keep on going.
Work around.
Just keep on going. Alright, so you want your water to be a little warm so that it will help to dissolve the sugar and it helps the oil to get inside the moisture a little better. Okay, so the first round, the first little cups in there, it's almost like a thick milkshake. Okay, and then you put some, you kind of just judge it for yourself. And after a little while, when I can't use the whisk anymore, then I will start and use a spatula, and then I'll put it completely onto the countertop in flour. So right now, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a nice consistency of, it's all bubbly, and it's all well blended in there. So now the rest of the flour will go in quite easily. And now it will start to thicken up. Isn't this fun? Oh, and just for nothing, but this is just an apron that I'm wearing to make people laugh. So please don't let anybody think that I'm sitting here cooking in front of my big kitchen window with nothing on but a bikini that's much too big for me in real life and television. Okay, right now it's about the stage of like cornbread, I guess you'd call it. So that's when you start. That's going to get thicker, and you still want it to be sort of wet when you take it out of the bowl, and I'll show you why. This is the part where you should remember to put Pam on your whisk, or either start with the spatula sooner, which I never do because I guess I just like playing with the dough on here. Okay, so then the next secret is take the flour, a good healthy portion of flour, because that's where you're going to make the rest of your bread, is going to come from this flour. You can't have too much flour out. It's okay if you don't use it. Flour's not that expensive. Okay, and then you'll see it come out. See, it's wet. When I say wet, it's just a wet mixture. This way you can control how much flour goes into it so your bread doesn't get too dense and then you can't eat it. Well, you can, but you don't want to. Okay. So, and then you just take the flour and you just bring it forwards. I don't know, well, you really can't see this. Hold on one second. Let me try to adjust. Let me try to adjust so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Can you see? Yep. One more time. Okay. All right. So here's my bread. here's my flour. See how I'm just sort of lifting it up? See that? Just very little flour goes in there. Problem that first timers or newcomers have is trying to be so careful and measure out every little thing. Aside from the yeast being measured, everything else you just sort of figure out by taste and how it feels in your hands. You want to make sure that your countertop has lots of flour on it. Like I said, it's okay if you waste a little flour because you don't want it to get stuck to your countertop. Make sure your counter is very, very clean with the cleanest thing that you have to clean your kitchen, and dry it off very, very well. And it helps, I think, if you sift the flour when you put it in the container. I don't recommend that you sift it right before you use it because it does something to the consistency. I'm not a professional baker, so I can't tell you, but I'm sure somebody out there can. Okay? So you see, I'm just adding the flour. You just roll it over, and you just keep on. And supposedly, all this kneading releases the gluten. Of course, if I knew what gluten was, that probably really means something. But for those of you out there who do, that's why you need the bread. And there's really no particular way. I could sort of roll mine into a ball and then knead it back down. And I'm so short, usually have to stand up to get a good pressure down on it. The trick is you don't want to make sure that it's not too much flour, where it will still, you want it to not crack. And if you get to that point, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because if you have too much flour in there, whenever you start to mold it into a circular thing, it will crack. And then that's how you can tell you have too much flour. But there's an easy fix for that. And I'll tell you about that in just a minute. Okay. Mushed it down one more. You just kind of know when it's time. Okay, so back into a circle. All right, and then I get my trusty bowl. Okay, can you see that? Just a nice round circle. All right. Okay, then you take it and you put it back in the pan where you made it, or a clean one if you prefer to wash a lot of dishes, which I do not. Then you take the oil, the vegetable oil, and you put it all over the top. Especially if there's little parts where it's breaking, make sure you put a little extra oil on there, and it will close the seams. And then the way I do it is I turn it over to the other side, and then I put oil on the bottom. If there's those same places, any places, because you want your bread to stay consistently together. You don't want to have any little holes in it. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Then you cover this up, and you put it someplace warm for about 3 hours till it rises up to where it's touching the towel. And then when it does that, you take the towel off and punch it real hard, put it back in a circle. If you need to, spray a little Pam on if it's getting dry, and then cover it back up, let it rise another 2 or 3 hours, and then do the same thing. And then at that time, you can put it in whatever container you're going to use and turn the oven on to 350, and then let it have the final rise in the pan that you're going to bake it in. And it will turn out fabulous, but only if you put a little extra love. This is Baking Bread with Babs. See you soon.